Welcome. This is episode 6 of BCC. Today's episode is called Charting a Course. Can we talk about the Lewis and Clark expedition? Here's a little bit about it from Wikipedia. President Thomas Jefferson commissioned the expedition shortly after the Louisiana Purchase in 1803 to explore and map the newly acquired territory to find a practical route across the western half of the continent. Now, over the years of running and building my businesses, I've certainly felt like I was exploring new territory. Only rarely, though, did I feel like I had found a practical route. Instead, when I look back on it, it feels rather impractical. Make a movie, create a TV show, start a new business, write a book. All these goals and dreams that I've had over the years are all fairly impractical. But there's a lesson to be learned from that expedition that I had reinforced this week. The importance of mapping newly acquired territory. As we go through each day, month, and year in our business, we are constantly trying and learning new things. Sometimes what we learn is what not to do. Other times we have a breakthrough and we get a burst of momentum and excitement that carries us through to the next rough patch. But how often are we writing those things down, mapping the route? It's easy to make progress by just charging through. Mountain range, go over it. River, swim across it. Desert, buck up and cover your sensitive skin to avoid sunburns. But how often do we come out the other end and take the time to write down the path that we just took, the lessons we learned, or even look around to see if there's an alternate path that would have gotten us to this point even faster or with less sunburns? If the expedition in the early 1800s merely made it across the country without anyone keeping track of the course they took, the obstacles in their way, the lessons learned, then it didn't serve the greater purpose. The purpose was to create a map. It was the mapping aspect that made it so that not only they were able to make the return trip east, but that those that followed had an advantage when they struck out on the journey themselves. Lewis and Clark. Now, I'm no history buff, but let's for a minute pretend that one of these two explorers was the charge ahead at all costs, no matter what type, and the other was more methodical and concerned about keeping good records and mapping out their course. It wouldn't have worked without both of them. They never would have made it across without one charging ahead despite any fear or obstacles, dragging the other along. And they never would have made it back or accomplished their mission without the other taking time to chart it all out. The lesson here is that if you're a one-person business like I am, you have to be both Lewis and Clark. You have to charge ahead to do the work, face your fears, and summit that mountain. But you also have to make sure to write down how you got up the mountain. What path worked, which one led to a cave full of bats, and where not to camp at night because of how the rain comes down that one side of the mountain. Your intrepid explorer can get you places you never thought possible. But it's easy to get lost without the companionship and sometimes the leadership of someone keeping track of which direction you're heading. There's a greater mission than just getting to your destination when it comes to your business. It's mapping out how you got there so that you can then give that map to someone else who wants to take the journey you just took. It also helps to have a really friendly person to make fast friends with all the Native American tribes that you encounter along the way. But that's an analogy for another day. If you just charge ahead, sure, you'll probably make it to where you want to go. But there is something bigger that's possible when you chart your course and return with a map in hand. Now, hundreds and thousands of people for generations and generations can follow your map and do the same. It takes the work that you put in and it multiplies it indefinitely. Because the next person can add a little more detail. Someone else might find a different route. The landscape may change, and so the map has to be updated. But it starts with you taking the time to create the map in the first place. Why? I don't know who the 100th person to take the journey across our continent was. but I do know who Lewis and Clark are because they made a map. P.S. One of my favorite maps, also known as an online course, is opening up in a few weeks. It's the best course I've ever taken on email marketing and audience building, and you can get it as well if that's a journey that you've been on for some time. Check it out at the link in the show notes or below this video, and be sure to subscribe to their email list. They have a ton of free content coming out in the next 2 weeks that will blow your mind because of how good their free content is. One other PS, we're launching our own map in October, about a week from now, and it's called Benchmark. I've mentioned it a few times in the past episodes. I'm currently, right now, today and next week, I'm looking for a few artists, creatives, small business owners, contractors, or freelancers to do a little bit of market research with. Now, this market research, if you're willing to help me out, it comes with a nice little gift. So if you've got 10 minutes free next week to give me just a little bit of feedback, I would really appreciate it. So just hit me up, shoot me an email, darren@hey.com, and let me know that you're interested. We'll set something up, and I'll hook you up with a sweet little gift for your time. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week with another episode of BCC.